Welcome, everybody, to the American College of Financial Services and the Center for Women. Thank you for joining us today for our webcast, Building a Pipeline of Female Talent to Become Women Working in Wealth. I'm so excited to introduce our guests today. We have with us Sarah Williams of WIFS and Maura Cunningham of Rock the Street, Wall Street. As I mentioned, two women committed to women in financial services. Sarah is an experienced strategic leader in the insurance and financial services industry. She's Vice President, Marketing Communications at Creative One. If you're in the industry, you probably know Creative One. Her career in financial services spans nearly 20 years with roles leading marketing, sales, public relations, and account management. She is also the National Membership Director for WIFS, so Women in Insurance and Financial Services. I'm sure many of you know that great organization, and she's going to be speaking from that perspective today. We also have with us Maura Cunningham, who is the founder and CEO of Rock the Street, Wall Street. Maura is dedicated to closing the gender gap, the wage gap, and the opportunity gap that exists in our nation. Determined to make this vision a reality, Maura combined her entrepreneurial skills and her passion for working with teenage students and went on to found Rock the Street, Wall Street in 2013. Rock the Street, Wall Street is one of the fastest growing nonprofits focused on the M, that's math, and STEM in the nation. It's been recognized by the White House, Catalyst, NASDAQ, Women's Bond Club of New York, and the Today Show for its goals to engineer social and industrial change. Maura has been committed to working with underserved girls for over a decade. She helps girls view math-focused fields of study as compatible with a career that has positive impact on the world. Rock the Street, Wall Street sparks girls' enthusiasm for finance at a critical age and makes them aware of the societal benefits personal financial knowledge and math-oriented careers can have. Maura began her career on Wall Street with Merrill Lynch. After a successful 25-year career in finance, Maura turned her full attention to creating opportunities for others. Now we're going to see the video about Rock the Street, Wall Street.
Yes, so I queued it up earlier, so just bear with me, everyone. Women in finance. Oftentimes, we're few and sometimes the only one in the room. This was the case when I started my career in finance 30 years ago. And since then, the needle still hasn't moved at all. Today, women represent a fraction of the leadership working in finance. Without your help, these numbers will never change. Enter Rock the Street, Wall Street. We are driven to improve girls' financial and investment literacy and inspire them to pursue a career in finance. In the United States, girls start to lose interest in math by age 9. They don't have this problem in Russia, China, nor Eastern European countries. This is very much a cultural issue, not a capability issue. And it all starts at home. If parents have a boy and a girl, many parents are still encouraging their sons to study math and science, and their daughters to study dance and literature. When they get to grade school, they will find that 90% of their teachers are females who have little to no certification in math. Girls see their teachers struggle when they go to the whiteboard with what is known as math anxiety. This math anxiety transfers to the girls in the classroom, but not the boys. Sometimes they'll even hear their teachers say, "I can't do math, I hate math." As a result, girls start to think it's societally acceptable for them to opt out of math. I will have CEOs and CIOs of major companies with teenage daughters ask me, "Why is my daughter saying she can't do math?" It's at this moment in girls' lives, the high school years, that are so important to Rock the Street, Wall Street. We have to reach girls before they select a college or a major. If we continue to wait until they reach college and recruit them there, we have waited too long. Girls have already opted out of finance and economics classes, where approximately 10 to 20% of the students are girls, if that. We want to revive their interest and confidence in math with our program. Rock the Street, Wall Street's financial literacy program and investment literacy program runs throughout the academic year and is designed to spark the interest of high school girls into careers of finance. In 7 years, we have grown from one school in Nashville, Tennessee, to 30 schools in 18 cities coast to coast across the United States. We have interest coming in from over 67 cities across the United States alone, and also in London, Sydney, and Toronto. To date, we have equipped over 3,000 high school girls with the tools to think and talk meaningfully about money and investments. Close to 1,000 female financial professionals have volunteered to teach our programs in their local high schools, demonstrating how our students can improve their own economic situation and are role models for their career paths into finance. We create the social capital needed for many of these girls to launch them on a flight path into a career of finance. 69% of our students come from minority populations and 44% from low-income families. It's at this inflection point, the high school years, where we should be putting our funding to increase the number of women in the financial talent pipeline. We want to meet these girls where they are, engaging teenage girls with a financial industry that aligns with what they're looking for in their life work. That it's not just about dollars and cents, but instead the work can be deeply meaningful. That, for instance, they can change the face of a city by helping it reduce its interest rate and borrowing fees. Or they can help an eco-sustainable startup company achieve its goals by helping it obtain the seed funding for the venture capital they need so that they, in turn, can have a greater impact on their communities. This is how we change the face of finance. If we change who we invest in, we'll change what we invest in. Join us in our mission by financially supporting Rock the Street Wall Street so more girls in the United States and around the world will understand how finance impacts their everyday lives and how a career in finance can be a rewarding and powerful path to being change agents.
Maura, thank you for sharing that. That is so powerful. I love that video. I've seen it a few times, as you can imagine, while we were preparing for this and as we've been getting to know Rock the Street Wall Street better. And it still gives me chills every single time. And I hope that it looks like the chat box is going crazy. People love this and people are saying I'm in, which is one of the reasons that we invited Sarah and Maura to talk to us today, because people ask us all the time at the American College Women's Center, how can I get involved? How can I give back? What can I do? So the video covered so much, but is there anything else that you'd like to add, Maura, about Rock the Street Wall Street?
Well, where do I begin? But just in terms of the video itself, and Sarah, I'm going to let you be the moderator here, of course, but I will say there are updates to the video. In fact, I'm going to the studio today to update the video. So we are now in 51 schools across 26 cities in the United States and now Canada. We now have our first international location in Vancouver, Canada, and it looks very good that we may be going to London next year, meaning this year, fall, we go by the calendar, the academic year. So by the fall of next year, fall of this year, I should say, looks like we would be in London, and there are possibly 2 other international cities, but I won't mention them yet. And we have interest coming in from over 90 cities now. So we're very, very excited about our prospects, and we've obviously proven the model. And so, and thanks to all of the women who have volunteered with us, including some of the WIFS members, if I may call it that, WIFS. And I want to thank also the American College for this opportunity to meet with everyone today. So now, Hillary, I'm going to hand it back to you and then take it from there.
Great. Thank you, Maura. So another important component in this conversation is WIFS. If you don't know women in insurance and financial services, you should. And I'm going to ask Sarah to talk about WIFS and how WIFS supports women in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Hillary, and thank you, Maura. And excuse me, pardon me. I'm very excited to be here. As Hillary kind of mentioned, a powerhouse of women with inside this webinar, and I love that men are probably on this as well, because we love our men. I call them a male ally. So thanks for joining us today. But let's kind of get into who WIFS is. As Maura said, it is Women in Insurance and Financial Services. WIFS has been around for, believe it or not, 86 years. We recently celebrated in 2021 our 85th anniversary. We have had a couple different names WLCU, but in the last 22 years, we have been women in insurance and financial services. So definitely not a flash in the pan from a group setting and an association setting. Starting it back in 1936, can you imagine what 1936 looked like for women in our industry? And so we're moving the needle as best we can in regards to three major missions and vision points with WFS. And they are, number one, attracting women to this industry, which is why this is such a great panel here for us to learn about what Maura is doing with Rock the Street, Wall Street, and how WFS is a great strategic partner with them. And then how through a conduit like the American College and some of the successful advisors that are on that group is how do we attract these women? I mean, it's amazing that Maura talked about how between 8 and 9 years old that some of these gals, these girls have already made up their mind that they're not good at math, which is a cultural thing. And that's what Maura said in the video. So I think we have to change our mindset. So that's the attraction part. The development part is once we get into this industry, how do we really nurture each other? And how do we really take what we've learned from other people, and it's that networking, that collaboration process, and really a lifelong learning process. And then the third thing that we like to do is advance. So that might be advancing in your certain position that you're already in. Maybe it's in a different career. Maybe it's taking on a new designation. That's what WFS is really trying to do, is those three things, is attract, develop, and advance women inside the industry. And we are like Maura, kind of branching outside of the continental United States. We are very, very happy to be able to say that we have a new chapter in Puerto Rico. And believe it or not, the ladies in Puerto Rico are doing a fabulous job with taking it and teaching other women outside the continental United States about women in insurance and financial services. So we have over 800 members in the continental United States, as well as Puerto Rico. And over half the states have chapters, and we're growing and growing as much as we can and spreading the word. So I will give a little shout out to all my WFS crew that is out there, maybe listening. And if you're interested, it is Women in Insurance and Financial Services. The website is wifsnational.org.
Great, thank you, Sarah. And for those of us who may not have a chapter in our direct geographical area, we can be a member at large or.
Yes, you can. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. So in all the chapters that we have, if you are not located in an area where there is a domiciled chapter, we have a national chapter that is for members at large that are just, maybe not in a certain area, that can still collaborate and network with each other. So don't shy away if there's not a chapter, or if there's not, we would love for you to look at it and see if it's something that you might want to take on and start one.
So Caroline in the chat just said there's not a chapter in DC. How is that possible? So Caroline, if you want to take that on, I'm sure there are women who would work with you on that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
As we can all attest, when we do things together, just, we can do more together. We're stronger together. So when we get together, we can do more. And that's sort of the theme of the next point of the conversation, which is how can organizations work together to increase women in diversity in financial services? So specifically, even beyond, I know that WIFS and Rock the Street, Wall Street know each other already. We all know each other, but are there other organizations or other ways that we can work together to increase women in diversity in financial services specifically?
Yeah, I'll kind of take that one, Maura, if you want me to kick it off, and you can jump in. So I think increasing the diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is really our goal in 2022 for WFS. That is one of our kind of themes this year, is rise up, be the change. And when we talk about, rising up and being the change, it's not necessarily kind of sitting back and letting someone else do things. It's taking it on yourself, and it's learning, how does DE&I really impact who we are as a group and an organization. So that's one of the things that WIFS will really focus on in 2022 is, adding people of diverse backgrounds. and learning from each other and really collaborating and making sure that we're being inclusive. And there's multiple larger companies that have even their own departments that do this. So really learning from those other people is something WFS is really working on in 2022.
Do you have experience with working with organizations to expand your reach and your impact?
Yes, so very much so. So we have worked with WIFS, WIFS, and we were at their national meeting before COVID, of course, up in Kentucky, and I met some of their marvelous women and did a presentation there, and would love to do that again. And then we also work with a lot of female, let's call them affinity organizations. So for those of you who are on the line, you may know the CFA societies, the CFA Institute. We probably work with about 15 different CFA societies around the country and growing. The CFA Institute as well, the CFP board. We work with them. You may have seen us in their newsletter that they promote. Sometimes we make an all call out to a city where sometimes we might get funded by a private donor or a private foundation. And of course, they don't have the female financial professionals. So CFP has stepped up for us both in New York City and in LA, and maybe even in San Francisco as well. So we really appreciate that. And then, it's a function of where they want to get involved, and how they want to get involved. So I'm happy to, if you want to get more specific as we continue to go along here, I can tell them more about how to get involved.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about how to sponsor a financial literacy program in your community in a few minutes. We got a couple questions in the chat. So John asked, what level of presence and representation do you have at large financial advocacy and association events, such as FinSECA's LAMP conference? So Sarah, I see you nodding your head. You're familiar with FinSECA. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I am. So WFS is a strategic partner with FinSECA. We did actually a webinar that I hosted back in, I think it was 1st of December or end of November, all about some of the things that FinSECA is doing from the stance of, legislation and politics and how to really understand really the platform of what's going on, whether it's in the retirement arena or it's really just taking care of your own retirement. FinSECA is a great strategic partner for us. I know they've got a lot of exciting things going on right now. I won't give it away, but if you do some research on FinSECA, they've got some potential in the background that might change the way that they do business, but a great strategic partner. I have not attended the LAMP, but I'm very familiar with them and I have some really good contacts over there. So WFS is really not about just providing some of the things that we do internally. It is about building up and networking with other people. And that's why I was so excited to do something like this, so we can share resources, because that's really what it boils down to.
All right, great. Thank you for answering that. One of the questions that came up, so someone asked what CFA is. That's the Chartered Financial Analyst designation. CFP is Certified Financial Planner. Those are all industry standard, gold standards for some of the designations and experiences, designations and certificates that folks in our industry get. And yes, there are lots of acronyms. I cannot tell you what FinSECA stands for at this moment, but if I could Google it, I would, but we're in the middle of a webinar, so I'm not going to do that right now. The other question we got was, do you partner with any African-American coalitions and associations? Do you have an internship program? I can say from the American College perspective, we have our CAAFP and CAAA. Sorry for the acronyms. I will tell you what they stand for. So we have a conference of, it's actually a community of African-American financial professionals that is 15 years old. We've done an event and we have supported that community for 15 years. And the last event, while it was virtual, was about 1,500 African-American financial professionals. And we have the Center for Economic Empowerment and Quality. So we do have some initiatives focused on the African-American community specifically. And we don't have an internship program yet, but stay tuned. Do either of you have internship programs that you want to speak to?
Yeah. Go ahead, Maura.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, you're good. Go.
Okay. I first want to let everybody know that we have a internship and job portal for the industry. So I'm delighted to share that with all of you. I'll put it in the chat. And currently, we just launched this in August, by the way, and it's just skyrocketing in terms of the number of listings we're getting of people who are interested in offering our students internships. So speaking of our students, 73% come from minority populations and 48% come from underserved families. So they're the underserved population. So these are firms that are either currently sponsoring us or they're not yet sponsoring us, but do want to offer a internship, whether it's a spring internship or a summer internship, whether it's for high school students or college students. We're taking both of those, both high school and college. I would highly recommend that you talk to your HR departments about going into the high schools for this, for reasons you'll see later. So I'm going to put the link there to our internship and job portal registration. I believe you don't necessarily have it. I'm going to put it in right now, so you'll see that. Okay. And you will see there's one side for applicants and one side for employers. All of you on here will want to click the employer video, and that'll give you an idea of what we're all about. So again, that's been just taking off gangbusters since we went with a full opening back in August. I believe there's about 49, if not 50 now, full-time entry-level positions.
Wow.
I think 39 internships. So we want to be known, just so everybody knows, I mean, if you can get the word out on this, it'd be really, really cool because it's happening. We want to be known as the go-to place to find emerging female financial talent. And then emerging financial talent includes high school girls who have clearly indicated that they're interested in this, and college students who are clearly interested in this, and entry-level positions. So if you can remember that, I've put the address into your chat box and you can click on that, but that's the link that you want to go to. As I said, it's been taking off like gangbusters. We're thrilled with the reaction that the industry has had with this, and we're just getting started. So that's one thing we're doing. The other thing we're doing is we partner with other nonprofits. One that comes, two that come to mind is Girls Who Invest. I'm sure some of you have heard of them. They have a college program. They have two different programs. One is called a Summer Intensive Program, SIP, which we have some of our students who have qualified for that. It's not easy to qualify, but they have, and that's tuition free. So they go to a college campus. These are usually underserved girls who go to a college campus for 6 weeks, learn about the investment industry, and then work for 6 weeks in the industry, and it's fully paid. The other thing that we do is this wonderful organization that we've just got in touch with called Thrive Scholarships. And Thrive Scholarships, which I also put in your chat room before, is I'm looking at their website because we're new to them, but we did an info session with them with our students just last week. We provide high achieving students of color from low income communities the opportunity they need to thrive at top colleges and in meaningful careers. And quite frankly, I don't know how they do it because 50% of their applicants, of their qualifiers into the program. It's a program that starts in junior year of high school. That's why they're interested in us. And they give a student a mentor, and then they take them all the way through college. And so that they go to 100 of the top universities in the United States. A lot of them are able to qualify debt-free to go to those colleges. So we were very involved in getting minorities into the industry, as you can well see. So we're very proud of our associations, and there are others. But at this point, I'm going to hand it over back to Sarah, if you want to put your 2 cents in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to kind of dovetail into some of the things that you talked about working with women and ladies with inside the high school arena and the university or college level. That's one of the things during our 85th anniversary last year with WFS, that we sent out letters to 85 universities across the United States of looking for certain women that are in our industry, in the insurance, financial services, risk management industry, to be able to educate them on why we are in such a great industry and what the benefits are. Because, imagine if you had a mentor, an advocate, or someone, at that age to be able to show you really the greatness of what we can bring to the industry, and really kind of understanding that it's not just, traditionally the men's industry, that we are growing. It is slow, but we are growing. So that's like Maura, that's where we're trying to start at the younger generation. And one of the things that we're working on is more of when they come into WFS, we waive all their fees, because as we know, college students are typically not at the level to be able to, and afford a registration like that. So we we do their fees complimentary. We take care of all that so they can attend our sessions for free. And so we really feel like we're trying to give back from that point. And, Maura came to our group back before COVID in 2019 to Louisville. But this year when we were in Indianapolis, we actually had a group from Eastern Kentucky University. There's about 5 gals that kind of came in from the university and had kind of a sponsor with them. And so it was nice for them to walk around and get to know people and understand what do we do, right? What is our passion, and what better place to be at is when you're surrounded with other women that really share that passion and that drive. So that's where we kind of come in. We don't have a formal internship system, but I think that one of the other things that I want to mention that we can get into, and I know, Hillary, I don't want to steal your thunder for this next one, but is a mentor program.
Well, yeah, it's a really nice segue to the importance of mentorship and sponsorship. And I know that WIFS is really committed to mentorship. We have some direct experience with that. But if I may, this part of the conversation was born out of a comment that Maura said in working with her girls, that the girls that she works with don't have role models in financial services, and her experience with just how life-changing and impactful sponsorship or mentorship can be. So would you talk about that first, Maura, and then we'll get back to Sarah and WIFS.
I'd be delighted. And it's actually the volunteers I was speaking of, not necessarily the students. The students are a given. They don't have volunteers. Well, let me start with students, since we're on the students. So many of these students, as you know, we're in the underserved population, but we're everywhere. By the way, we are agnostic as far as what kind of school we go into. So we go into all socioeconomic strata, because as we all know, women of any economic strata just really do know very little about finance, but they seem to think that that's okay. I know when I went with my clients, very wealthy into clients, captains of industry in the towns that I was working in, and a family business where they would have women. The men would of course be in charge, and then the sons. And then I would ask for the women to come, and she'd come and she'd be like, "Oh, well, that's for them." Like, you gotta be kidding me. Your whole life, your whole family's dynasty is dependent on really good decisions here, and you need to be involved. Your sons are pretty young, and why don't we get the daughters involved? But I digress. So back to where we're hearing the need. So in the high schools, a lot of our students, because they are underserved and so forth, they have absolutely no positive money management roles, zero. And very often, a lot of their families are living paycheck to paycheck. And if they're not living paycheck to paycheck, and they're in a middle-class family, the research shows that dad is not speaking to his daughter about money management, but the research shows that he will speak to his son about money management. And mom, of course, is not speaking to her daughter about money management either. So it's a real serious issue. Sally Krawcheck, who I think is a good person for what she's been doing. I think she's really trying, and I think she's doing a great job. You will hear her bemoan the fact that women will save, but they don't know how to invest. And that's so true. And the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. And this is one of the reasons why we exist, because nobody is speaking to women about investing. They don't understand risk analysis. They don't understand managed risk, nothing. So that's why we exist. And that's why I had Wall Street in our name intentionally, because not only are we about budgeting and saving, we want to talk about investments, and we do that in spades. So that's the students. What I was speaking to you about specifically, Hillary, is I have very young volunteers. I shouldn't say very young, mid-20s to 31, 32, 33, who are in the industry from the money-centered cities, whether it's New York, Chicago, San Francisco, and other cities. And because of what I do and who I am, and it's safe to talk to me, I'm kind of a lightning rod to discuss issues. And some of the issues that's still happening in the industry is women who are older are not lending a helping hand to the women who are younger. And I was guilty of that. I don't say that I wasn't. I was. Maybe this is my penance, quite frankly. But being the only female, what we call producing female, as you all well know, I was always scrambling. I was always just, you're only as good as your last sale. You had to get out there. And if the manager came to me and said, Maura, why don't you speak to these younger people? I'd be like, you know what? Have them come to me. And no one ever came. And it wasn't because I don't think I was that unapproachable. It was just I wasn't available. And so I am pleading with the women and the men who may be on here to please extend a hand. Don't do what I did. Please extend a hand to these women, because these are extremely bright women, very qualified. Universities I could name, Ivy League, who are like, I have no mentor. I have no one that I can confidently talk to about some issues that are challenging right then and there, as you might remember, right?
Right.
So I do, please rethink this, because it is important to these young women. I have had young women say one thing on the video with me, and then another when the cameras are off. And I'm like absolutely shocked. And I'm like, this is not right. This has been happening for too long. So somebody has to bring this out of the closet and talk about it, because we come from such a headset of scarcity, women, that is, because we only normally see one at the top. Mm-hmm. Men have a headset of abundance, in that they see, 50, 100 men at the top. We don't, but we got to get over that. Okay. We have got to get over this headset of scarcity. There's room for many of us at the top. So please extend your hand to those who you can help lift up now while you can in your office.
Yeah, and I'll kind of also capitalize on that as well, Maura. So that is one of our passions at WIFS, is our mentorship program, mentor/mentee program that we run for our members. And it's really, I would call it when I was at the national conference in Indianapolis, I keep referencing that, but a lot of good things came out of that. I kind of call it therapy. Think about this. Talking to your therapist about, personal problems or what's going on, and mentally, emotionally, this is almost therapy for you from a business stance. But then if you get to know your mentor, or if you're the mentee, whatever it might be, it turns into really a relationship. So I kind of joke around and say that, the cost of mentorship is also, the cost of grabbing a great therapist that really kind of understands where you're at with inside your own walls, as far as us being minorities with inside the industry. So the mentorship program runs for 6 months. We team people up based on their backgrounds and do kind of a matching program to make sure it's a good fit. And then we meet every month to kind of go through with each other in a larger group. And then as well as for each mentor and mentee to get together on their own and be able to kind of share some of those things. So like I said, it's kind of like a refresher to learn and understand each other's, strengths and weaknesses, and really maybe struggles. And we also kind of joke around that sometimes the mentee teaches the mentor more than the mentor teaches the mentee. And it's not always about age and tenure. There can be things that, different generations teach different generations. So we feel like that's a really important part of WFS.
And Sarah, if I may, Hillary, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that, if I may.
Absolutely.
I think we got to walk away from this concept of therapy. Okay. We have got to look at this instead as a job opportunity, as an opportunity to advance my career. I mean, do you think men would be saying this is a therapy opportunity? I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Sure.
That's a side effect. I think that we've got to stand stronger, firmer, more intentional about what this really means. And we've got to be a little more of the headset that this will advance us into the careers we've chosen, rather than it looking as a therapy session. And I don't disagree with you. There is a side effect. Trust me, I do know that. But let's also look at this from a sense of, I don't want to even use the word empowerment, but a sense of reality. You know, we have got to get to the top. We've got to get to the top more often. And we have to think in business terms. So the way you want to look at this, if you give your hand to the one who's younger than you, is as an opportunity to learn from your mistakes and to learn from potentially your clients, you know, in the sense that you're comfortable with showing a client, or I used to do drives with some of my colleagues, and drives meaning we used to go to the client together, and we would prep on the way there and then debrief on the way back. And so we would do a case bake with some of my colleagues. I was in a study group for many years at the firm that I was at. There were 24 men and me for like 8 of those years. I was like, okay, I don't care. I'm the only one here. I don't care. I just want to do the case bakes. Let me find out what the heck went right, what went wrong with this. Why didn't you close the case? Why didn't you close the account, et cetera, et cetera. We have to think more like that and not therapy.
And I appreciate.
I'm sorry I'm so adamant about it.
No. And I appreciate that.
I want to get us off that needle.
Yeah, and I think that's a good conversation that we can all have. And see, I kind of think of it as the opposite, Maura. So I'll kind of challenge you. Yes, we're going to get into it. But the challenge is that therapy is sometimes seen as negative, like, ooh, they're going to therapy, like that's a bad thing, right? But the therapy here is more of like you kind of talked about, an empowerment, right? It's taking some of the things that maybe we don't want to share with our spouses. We don't want to share with our next door neighbors, but gosh, I'm willing to share it with someone that I feel very comfortable with, that can take me to that better place that I can be in and empower myself from that sense. So I completely agree. Kind of potato. I think we're still trying to get at the same thing, which I love, which is the purpose for that.
WIFS has been very generous in supporting. We have a cohort of 24 women in our wealth management certification program. And WIFS generously offered to mentor the 3 different cohorts. So we have an early, mid, and more experienced cohort in that group. And that's an example of working together and jumping in and offering to provide support and guidance and the benefit of your life experiences, whatever side of the coin you're on, whether you're early in your career or later in your career, we've all overcome stuff. So we appreciate that. And I wanted to mention, we did some research recently that we will be publishing soon on recruiting and retention practices, best practices. And mentorship and sponsorship are lacking. They're lacking in our industry. They just are. And if you don't have a mentorship or sponsorship program in your organization, what we found was the majority of underrepresented population goes outside of their firm to get either a sponsor or a mentor. So all of you big firm people, you're losing an opportunity to mentor or sponsor your own people. We shouldn't have to go outside our organizations to get support and guidance and career guidance. We should be able to do that internally. So the Women's Center is going to have an in-person event in March, God willing, in New York. And as part of that event, we are going to have a pledge signing that every woman there is going to pledge to sponsor or mentor another woman. I mean, how are we going to lift women up if we're not doing it ourselves? It's up to us. We have to do it. And so that's going to be part of our platform when we get together in March. So I think it's safe to say we covered sponsoring and mentoring. And now there's been a lot of questions about some tactical ways that we can sponsor or support a financial literacy program. And, how can people get involved in supporting the efforts of Rock the Street, Wall Street? So if you want to just go through, and I think we have a slide that has the 4 different ways that people can get involved, and Maura, if you would just talk to some of the tactical ways that we can get involved.
I'd be very happy to. So as I mentioned, we work in communities. So we are in currently 26 cities. And so a list of our cities is on the website, and we're growing. We just got word yesterday, we'll be in Honolulu, Hawaii. And then we'll be in some other cities. I just can't think of them all right now. So, and if we're not yet in your city, do reach out to us under our website, under Contact Us. You'll see, and that goes directly to our teams, and they will respond to you. So the first thing that you could possibly do is volunteer in your community for the benefit of financial and investment literacy. And again, you would reach out to us via the Contact Us page on our website. And the program that we have has 4 components. 3 are held during the school year, and the 4th component emerges upon graduation, as it were, from our program. And that's the internship and job board. But the 3 components, there's 2 in the fall and there's 1 in the spring. So we're a year-long program. We have had some girls who have been with us for all 4 years of their high school, which is amazing. We didn't expect that. But we're very pleased that they are, and they let us know. And we refresh the curriculum, by the way, every year. Every summer, we always refresh the curriculum. And sometimes we have a need for some more volunteers. So generally speaking, though, the way that our funding model works is we have an investment firm that sponsors us in a particular city. And I won't go through all of the components of the program, but if you want to know more, again, contact us via the website and say that you saw us here and you want to learn about more about the program. And we'll get our programming or our donor development team to reach out to you. But so generally speaking, it's a corporate sponsor who wants to get their ERG groups involved with us, employee resource groups. And so it's a package deal. They give us the funding for the year. And the funding for the year is $25,000 to have the program in a local school. And so we have some corporations that fund multiple chapters or multiple cohorts. JP Morgan is funding us in 3 cities this year: New York, Chicago, and New Orleans. And next year they're adding San Francisco. LPL is funding us in 3 cities this year, including Charlotte, San Diego, and Kansas City. Invesco is sponsoring us this year in 3 cities, which include Houston, Atlanta, and New York City, and so forth. And so we have others that are multiple. We also have some RIAs that are sponsoring us. So if you are an RIA, we would love to have you join us as well in the family. You can certainly do so as well. The mentor or sponsor girls, I just mentioned that. Very similar to, I think I captured all of that in my previous comments. Find a network of women who are committed to financial services. So if you want to get a group of women together to sponsor a cohort, we have had that happen. We were at a private school in LA where actually the families got together to fund the cohort at that particular school, and we're agnostic as far as what kind of school we go into. We do mostly serve the lower socioeconomic strata, but as we all know, women of all stripes and colors and shapes and economic strata know very little about finance. So we want to get in there and fix that. So we have had some women pool their money together. We had that happen, I believe it was in Portland this year, where we had one who spearheaded it. She fronted the money, and then she had her colleagues cut her separate checks. And so, and that cohort's going very well, by the way. Might have been Seattle, could be Seattle. Find a network of women who are committed to financial, we already went all that. Of course, donate, we're a 501c3. So with 90 cities still wanting our program, wanting our program. We would love to be able to get to them, of course. So we would love to have people just open their checkbooks and think of Rock the Street, Wall Street if you're thinking of advancing more women into finance. So we would love to have that happen. And by the way, on our website, you will see a donate now button, and we get 100% of the proceeds. There's no fees taken out of it. And so we would love for you to easily do that. You can do that at any time you wish, and we would be very thankful.
All right, so we said that we would deliver very tactical, specific ways that you can help and give back. There were another couple questions in the chat that I'm going to share. Someone asked if any of us have ever suffered with imposter syndrome. And there's some data behind this too. So the average woman will not apply for a job unless she has 100% of the required skills on a job description. The average man will apply if he has 10% of the skills required. And so there's something there that holds us back unless we feel like we have all of the required skills going into a position. So have any of you ever suffered with imposter syndrome? And if so, how did you overcome it?
All the time. Almost all the time. Sure. When I was starting out, absolutely. I suppose I was fortunate. I grew up in a household with 3 older brothers, and I saw them doing it all the time. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a go. And working on Wall Street, for those of you who do, you have to have very sharp elbows, a good sense of humor to get past a lot of that stuff. I just would take a deep breath. I would take absolutely a deep breath. If I was going out on a client call, I would over-prepare. I always over-prepare. I am still guilty of that. I'm okay with it though. And then I realized when I got to the top client that I had been pursuing for 2 years, if not 3, very top client, and I ended my career with this client because it was a good ending. It was the one I wanted, and I got him, and I said, okay, I'm done. And he was my one client for the year. And he said to me, Maura, I need you to put all you got here, which was a whole book of his entire analysis of his estate and financial situation. He said, I need this on 1 page. Just give it to me on 1 page. And I said, no problem. I can do that. And I realized, the bigger the fish, the more general you can be in your, I wouldn't say in your approach, because I approached this guy for like 3 years. But he knew based on, the data that I had, and thank goodness I had a good workbench, obviously do your homework, right? Absolutely be over-prepared. I was always over-prepared. Not that I even thought that I was over-prepared, but I did my homework. So I felt I was well-prepared. In hindsight, I was over-prepared. And then I said, you know what? He's right. I just need to get the general concepts across, and he needs to trust me. And unfortunately, I hate to keep using the male pronoun, but 95% of my clients were men. So as long as he trusted me, and as long as he understood that I did my homework, that I have a very savvy class of people behind me who know exactly what they're doing and are cutting edge on the tax law, and that I have access to cutting edge people, that's what was most important to him. And so I had it, but earlier in my career, absolutely. I was way out over my skis many, 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 many times. Bit off more than I could chew, all that you can say. But you learn. And sometimes, women, and I think this is one of the things that I learned in being at a lot of our field trips when I first started Rock the Street. Over 90% of the women on our panels were members of team sports. And so that told me immediately the correlation there, which is that they know how to take a faceplant and get back up. And my sport was softball, both softball and basketball. So I will say that as long as you know how to literally take a faceplant and get back up, you'll be fine. Go out there. Just take a deep breath and do it. Men do it all the time. So just get out there.
Yep, and I'll second that too. I actually was competitive sports as well. I didn't play in college, but in high school. So Maura, you and I have something to share. Softball was my thing too. Center field, I had a gun, man. I had a gun. Now that was 25 years ago, so I don't even know if I could throw across the street now. But you're right. You're right. It's that competitive part of you that goes from when you're younger and still goes when in your professional years. But I love some of the things that you said. You know, it's okay to get out over skis. We talked the other day about failing forward. You know, you're gonna fall on your face several times, but you're right. Getting back up and getting back into that ring to take another hit or to take, to move a little bit is really, really important. And imposter syndrome is really, I think, prevalent in the female gender, but men suffer from it as well. But I do think it's about surrounding yourself and collaborating with very smart people that you trust, that are your allies in business, and networks like this, like Rocker Street, Wall Street, the American College, WFS. This, I call it the tribe. These are your tribe members, and so working with them very closely. If you kind of get stuck on something, it's me reaching out to any of these ladies and say, okay, hey, I've got this situation or this problem. How would you kind of help me through that, or what could we do to collaborate on that? That's really how it kind of all comes together, and that's what these younger people that Maura are trying to work with and bring these people in should be able to see, that will make them feel a little bit more comfortable and, maybe where they're headed for the rest of their life.
And a lot of people say that having a degree or a certificate or that education, or to Maura's point, being prepared, helps you with that confidence and helps you, get to the table, sit at the table, sit across, deliver your message and get through it. And every time we get through one of those uncomfortable situations, we get a little more confident, we get a little bit more swag, and then we move forward. And that's what it's all about, right? Someone else was saying, John in the chat, about the fact that the math thing isn't such a big thing to him because he thinks that women bring better listening skills, empathy, and we're able to multitask generally better. And so his approach to retaining women has been by pairing them up with other women, which I think is a really good approach. I'm all about teaming. I think that, we've talked about the benefit of teaming, whether it's mentoring, sponsoring, teaming always has a positive effect. Someone asked in the chat, Maura, if your materials will be available in other languages as you venture into other international spaces.
Yes, we're happy to do that. We're obviously in Canada, so we had to go to the Canadian dollar, and I thought it was a different language. And it looks like London, and there's a couple of countries actually in Asia. So we're looking at that right now.
Okay, great. So we are going to wrap things up here. We've gotten to most of the questions. If we didn't get to your question, please know that we will answer it in follow-up. We'll record the questions. We have an invitation to join the community of women working in wealth here. We're going to close with the last slide, which has Maura and Sarah's contact information on it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us at the American College and the Women's Center. Thank you for a wonderful conversation today, Maura and Sarah. I've loved talking to you about how to attract more women and girls to financial services, how we partner together to create diversity and opportunities for females. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Hillary.
You.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.